Ready with your time and camera?
Hello, Ali, you look great, and it's been a long night. We will be precise and concise and to the point. We'll be asking if we can suspend the course, and our time will be like less than 15 minutes.
Take your
Okay,
time.
so as you can see, here's our guy here. We interview this guy, and this is the group. Hupomone is a Greek word saying not procrastination. Striving for the goal. It's like striving. And then there's Touch Me, Toucher Bruce, aka Tumangay, Hedrick Wal, Jacqueline, Shelby Salvador. And we are also all in education system. So this is our guy, he's our hero, he's our mentor. So we decided to interview him. So his educational leadership in action and active leadership approach, that's what made us like we want this guy. Successful and powerful and respectful leader too in MOE. And so everybody knows him and we were like inspired to follow his leadership. So we came together and decided that we interview him, and then he allowed and gave us permission, so we did so. You?
Oh, okay.
Wait, these are some of the questions we were sorry.
So we all decided to interview Mool, and we decided to use his name. So we went ahead and we did our consent form, and we wrote a letter. Yeah, Hedrick is the one that talked to him first, and then we wrote the letter and followed up on that. So these are some of the questions that we decided to ask, and as you can see, a lot of these questions are almost the same as some of the questions from the other groups. So for my part, I'll be talking about his educational background. So in 1982, he finished Munes and went to school. From Munes, then he got a diploma at PATS, which is Pohnpei Agricultural Trade School. Then in 1992, he got a degree at PNG, that's Papua New Guinea. And he got a degree as a builder, but when he came to Palau, he applied at Palau High School, and they hired him as a teacher at Palau High School. Then in 2008, he enrolled in the same program that we're in, and he got a master's degree in 2008.
Who's my classmate?
Oy. Classmate. Okay, work experiences. So as I said, 1993 when he arrived in Palau, he applied to Palau High School and was hired. Working there for about 2 years. After 2 years, hired me as a vice principal. So he was a vice principal for about 5 years. Then principal for 3 years. Before they moved him up to chief of research and evaluation at the MOE. Then 2014 to present, he's the chief of school management. And right now, he's the acting director. And he told us that he already submitted his application, so he's just waiting. And we believe that he's gonna get the position. Okay, so, the roles and responsibilities. As the chief of school management, he's responsible for the management of all the public schools under the Ministry of Education. And he also manages the library. As a supervisor for all the school principals, like there's the principals there, then he needs to make sure that all the principals are trained. They are trained and ready to handle any issues and also to run the schools. He also needs to make sure that all the teachers are trained and they're ready to teach. He needs to make sure that the classrooms are conducive for learning, that there are school supplies, all the materials that students need in order for them to get the highest education that they deserve. Then for vision and mission, he said that every time there's an issue or any question about work, he always refer back to vision and mission MOE to make sure that everyone needs to follow that. So that will make whatever decisions he makes it based on the vision and mission. And we have MOE Blue Book that he used to make sure that all school principals, all the staff and faculty, they follow that MOE Blue Book. Okay, and as a director, current director, acting director of Bureau of Education Administration, he oversees these 3 departments, which include the school management personnel, school management, personnel, and research and evaluation. So all of those 3 are under his supervision at the moment.
As mentioned, Chief Mool's actual degree was not in school administration or management. So one of the questions we were interested in is because he became leader in the school system very early in his career. So we asked, so how did you develop leadership in education? So he mentioned, again, he said many more. This may be a disservice to what he said, but I will try to summarize. One is like, throughout his career, the leadership style and practices that he has learned, either in school or read in books, he says they are ingrained in the culture, Palau culture. And he was only able to identify them once he was in the MA. So he was doing it, using it, but it was only during the MA that he realized, oh, that's what they call that kind of leadership, which is adaptive. And so that ties into how he, by the way, he was approached to move up when he was in Palau High School. So we asked him, what did I see? Why? And then that'll be at the end. But secondly, he said that in preparation, every meeting, he makes observations, training, workshop, conferences, he builds on his skills and knowledge. So it's not all formal, but in the meetings and trainings and workshop. Show leadership in all he does at work. This is 2 parts, but one statement. One is like, he demonstrates leadership to people who are superior, and they recognize it and they promote him. And later on, he was able to identify what he was doing that was part of leadership. But secondly, he also believed that leadership is to be demonstrated, not just talked about. So it was his philosophy, believed that leadership needs to be demonstrated. Okay? And so for our observation for the application theories and concept, we went there thinking adaptive leadership because he oversaw the principles. And the principles, they almost operate as separate entities. So we thought, guarantee. So we went there assuming adaptive leadership approach. We did observe it in him, in his discussion. As we know from adaptive leadership approach, he leads the people to adapt in difficult circumstances, and then lead them to thrive and to achieve and to develop. So that was his approach. That's technical requirement in MOE, because whether you're adaptive or not, you still have to run school. But it fits his way of it fits his way of leadership. He also says, as part of he values other people's ideas and philosophies, and he considers what works for them. And so some of those people may not recognize those things, and he helps lead them to recognize it, and so they would adapt to the circumstance or to the hardship. He also mentioned what Jacqueline mentioned, that when there's differences in ideas or opinions, he always go back to the vision and mission statement, which while doing the interview he quoted, he's memorized. So that's his fallback. So we observe that in him. And by the way, if he was left alone in MOE, he has a little bit of experience in every department that he can run or lead somebody there. That was very impressive. And then our other observation, which we added after the interview, is the path-go leadership approach. He leads people to adapt, but here he identifies the problem, and then he himself would choose the right behavior and attitude when talking to the people, because he believes that they're out there in the villages, in the different elementary school, they're doing the work. So he in practical theory, it's achievement focused, but he at least he can make the adjustment in his behavior and approach. The direct employees under his leadership, the way he directs is that he makes the adjustment in his attitude and his. Then finally, he says he recognizes and praises employees for their accomplishment, which will motivate them to rise and excel in their work. We didn't write the quote here, but he said something that I wrote it down. He said, "You praise publicly, and you reprimand privately." Okay, so that's how he does it. And then he said, it's not an option to praise. We have to do it as part of leadership so that people know how they're doing and what they do well. And so we observed this in him, so we thought that as far as the theories and approaches that we're learning, we did at least identify these two that we can attribute to Chief Moon. Good?
Okay, one of our questions that we asked Shimol, where we asked what are the strengths that he has, or yeah. So the first one is commitment. Shimol is really responsible person. So when he commits to a task, he wants to do it and to the best of his ability. And number two, communication. He talks to his principals and he spread the word, make sure that everyone knows what are the information that they need to know, and yeah. And the next affirmation is what Hedwig mentioned. He recognized, praise, and reward and congratulate them when they do good job. And he does networking. Chimol is very friendly, outgoing. So he connects very well with others. And the next, these are some of the challenges that he faces. Yeah, school visits and feedbacks. We all know that there are a lot of public schools, and yeah, one of his job is to visit them and give feedback. So what are the things that they're doing good, and what are the things that they need help on. So maybe that he's in Gayang and then in the middle of Ngaramnanguy, then something comes up or pops up, so that delays the feedback to the schools that they need. Next, he does work to the best, so he expects a lot or the same from others when they do work. And he another challenge is dealing with employees, like when employee and employee have issues culturally. We cannot, even though he's young, like Chief Mo, you guys know him, and there are some teachers that are much older than him. There are different ways to talk to our workers. You cannot just talk to older people the way you talk to someone like your age or younger. So that is one of his challenges. Thank you.
So to conclude, Ward prefers hands type and of work and would turn down chances to become minister. So that means he wants to work like in the field, connect to people, work with people. So he doesn't want this political appointment into higher hierarchy of the ministry. Okay, so he's not involved. He doesn't want to be involved in those higher to work with people. So he's only interested in the directorship. So he will be networking and work with people. And his experience and in the ministry for so many years, they have given him the skills to face his weaknesses and identify some issues that arise between employees. So work is not affected and goals are achieved. And we did observe the adaptive approach and practical approach in most leadership. And this is one of the important things that he mentions, and then she said something about this influence of Palau's culture and educational leadership. It's like We don't use our authority or something and then just go there and say something negative to these people that are older than you. It's like one of our important values, like respect, respect, respect. So in our culture, we have to deal with people with respect and respect, so it comes from our culture. And like what Hedwig says, that quote that he says, praise in public and reprimand in private. And that's what is important characteristic as a leader. That concludes our presentation. Sunod na, Eric.